there, this is your Pal Pallie, and welcome back to Overrated. This is episode number 20. Yay! I've had 20 episodes of this thing. Thank you guys for sticking with it and watching every week. I appreciate every person who posts a comment and likes and views the videos and sticks with it through the ramblings that I go through. But awesome, and I'm at 20 episodes. Appreciate that you guys still let me do it. So onward we go. Today's episode is about Garrisons. There is a lot of information that came out from not only a data mining expedition by MMO Champion, but also a interview by Perculia at Wowhead, and lots of information to combine and speculate and talk about. There's also a couple bits of news that I'll talk about at the end about combat logs and mythic composition rating and beta invites and such. So I'll save that for later, but for now, let's dive into Garrisons. Lots and lots of stuff. So the first bit is that we've gotten a lot of data mining out of MMO Champion. And based off of that, we get a lot of these little bits and pieces and building information and how much plots you have and all this other jazz. So, taking a look at the list, I'll go through the list of buildings here in a second. But what we know from not only the data mining, but also the interview, is that you'll actually get some of these buildings for free. So I'm not going to go through all of the details of those. But what it sounds like first is that you're going to get a farm, a mine, a barn, and possibly also a fishing hut. So the interview and the data weren't agreeing on some stuff. The barn was actually labeled as a medium-sized building and wasn't labeled as sort of like this is free. But in the description of it in the interview, they sort of talked about they want to give you some resource gathering right away. So based off of the descriptions of that and the fact that they said farm, mine, barn, I guess those three are in there, as well as some other buildings that they said would be there by default, including probably the fishing hut. But the farm, the mine, and the barn are essentially there to give you some resources. The farm is actually an herb farm, so it generates a number of herbs for you every day. The mine is the similar thing for ore, so you come back, there's some ore for you. The barn apparently will cover cloth, leather, and meat. Interesting. I guess you'll have getting some cooking materials out of the barn. So there you go. Now, upgrading these resource gathering buildings is actually one of the very big highlights for me of this whole talk about Garrisons. If you upgrade the farm, mine, or barn, they actually can store multiple days worth of gathering materials. So at the base level, a mine, you have to come back every day or else it'll be full. For level 2, you can come back every 2 days. For level 3, you can come back every 4 days. So this goes back to my earlier discussion of Garrisons, where I was hoping that Garrisons weren't going to be one of those things that you absolutely had to go to every single day, or else you weren't being the best, most efficient player. With 4 days grace on you actually having to collect your stuff from these resource gatherers, that's good. That's awesome, because now you can just go off for a long weekend and come back, and your garrison will operate just fine, and you won't be missing out on a day's worth of garrison materials or any of that jazz. Once we get to the small buildings, those actually have the same mechanic. They have the same, like, once you upgrade it to level 3, the jewel crafting building will generate 4 days worth of, can store 4 days worth of stuff. So, cool stuff. Really happy that they listened, or maybe this was in their plans, but really happy that Blizzard listened to that concern, because it goes back to, is Garrison's going to be the daily quests of, the mopped daily quests of Warlords? It sounds like they won't be, at least in this case. So, farm, mine, barn, fishing hut, all that kind of cool stuff. You gather things. Yay. Awesomeness. They also said there'd be a couple buildings, like there'd be a pond, or at least not a building, but there'd be some features of your garrison that are just going to be included for everyone. So like a pond for you to fish in. Okay, cool. There'd be a battle arena for your pets to train. I don't know. Cool stuff. Great stuff. Now what they also said about garrisons was that it's going to be a key part in your leveling experience. So they're going to send you back through your garrison quite a number of times in the leveling experience. Then they also said at level 100, it's not necessarily going to be a key part of your raiding experience, or maybe it will be. We're not sure about that. But what they did say is that if you want to do trading and trade skill professions and all that other jazz, Garrisons is going to be the central hub for you to do anything. So that's a little troubling. Hoping that it doesn't become such a requirement that if you hate Garrisons, if you hate the gameplay, you're still required to do it in order to be competitive in, the economy, or competitive in gear gathering for raiding or something. So that's a little concerning, that note from them. This was from the dev interview. But we'll see. We'll see. So moving on to the buildings, let's first talk about what you get with each level of garrison. So at the start, with level 1 garrison, what you have is 2 small plots, 1 medium plot, and 1 large plot. We'll talk about the sizes of buildings and what those are in a moment. But moving on to level 2, you get 3 small, 2 medium, 2 large, and at the max level for your garrison, which is level 3, you get 4 small plots, 3 medium, 3 large. Again, these numbers may change along the way. We're not sure. And some of these buildings might end up being reclassified. We'll see how that is. In fact, they actually had the barn labeled in the data as a medium building, but that's probably not going to be the case given what the dev interview said, because they specifically mentioned the barn. The data says that a fishing hut is actually also free, which has some daily quests for fishing. I don't know. I didn't dig too much into the fishing hut. But let's talk about each of the sizes of buildings, and then we'll head back. We'll talk more about the levels of garrisons and how many plots you have. So for small buildings, this is pretty much profession buildings, except for two other buildings. So there's like the alchemy lab, the scribe quarters, there's the forge, the tannery, and those are all related to professions. The forge being the blacksmith, the tannery being leatherworking, etc., etc. And each one of these buildings talks about not only having additional storage for, the generation of materials for, say, jewel crafting or blacksmithing, but also talks about some specializations. So I assume this is sort of the nod to like alchemy and some of those other professions that have specializations. So once you get your alchemy lab up to level 3, you can have it specialize in transmute or pot or flask or whatever. Okay, standard stuff, so it sounds like it's following how professions are right now. Cool. The 2 buildings that are the exceptions with respect to small buildings that are not profession buildings are the salvage yard and the storehouse. Now, the salvage yard is about sort of selling your junk and turning it into material, and eventually you level your salvage yard to level 2, and you can turn it into gold. So maybe it's sort of like you collect all your gray items and your junk and your stuff, and instead of just getting like 50 silver for that, broken vial of whatever, you can eventually turn that into, say, like 10 gold or something. Interesting. Need to learn more about the salvage yard. The second building, the storehouse, is actually really interesting for those of you who don't want to come back to check on your garrison every day. So this one upgrades the storage of every building on your garrison such that it can have an additional day's worth of storage. Woo! There you go. So for your mine, if you've leveled your mine up to level 3 and you don't have to check it for 4 days, if you also have the storehouse, you won't have to check it for 5 days. So you could check it on Friday and then forget about it for the weekend and then come back and check it Wednesday, and you still won't lose out on any ore gathering because you have the storehouse on your plots. So that's probably going to be one of those buildings that is going to be required. People are going to just be like, yeah, everyone's got the storehouse. It depends. Maybe you want to have again, back to you can only have 4 small buildings at max level of your garrison. So you're going to have to decide whether you want, 4 different professions buildings on there, or, you want to add the storehouse or use the salvage yard or something to generate gold. I don't know. You'll have to decide. There's, 10 or so small buildings, so you're going to be really cramped on what you want to do there. The medium and large situation is a little better. There's not as many choices there, but it sounds like small is where you're going to have to say, I want this, this, and this is how I'm customizing my garrison. So those are the small buildings, and you can check out the actual list of all of the, relevant names of the profession buildings, but they're all there. They're all there. So moving on to medium, again, you can have 3 of these at max level of the garrison, and they are the inn, the lumber mill, the sparring arena, and the trading post. So, the inn starts to deal with getting yourself followers, and we'll talk about the information we got on followers here in a bit, but the inn's probably going to be one of those default buildings that you're going to want to have. You can recruit followers, you can also upgrade the inn to have a kitchen with a cooking trade skill. It's probably everyone's going to have an inn, not only just from getting the followers and the cooking trade skill, but probably everyone's going to want to feel like they have a home, like they have an inn. Oh, I can go rest in my inn and such. So, we'll see. The other buildings, lumber mill. This one's probably also going to be one of the ones you're going to want early on because it helps you gather materials to upgrade your garrison. And I'm not sure if it'll do it quicker or, I assume helping you upgrade your garrison, what else would it be? Other than letting you upgrade it faster. But anywho, that's the lumber mill. And, until you get all your crap maxed out, you're probably going to want the lumber mill there. But maybe, what I haven't learned yet is whether you can lose your buildings or destroy your buildings to replace them with something else. I assume you could. I'll have to find that one out. But, you could use the lumber mill up until you got everything upgraded, and then replace that with one of the other buildings once you are all done. I don't know. We'll see. The sparring arena is a medium building, and there is very little known about that. Here's my theory. It's going to be a little deathmatch arena where you can be like, all right, so-and-so, I'm pissed off at you, come to my sparring arena, and it flags you both as hostile, and you get to duel people. I don't know. I don't quite think it's related to the pet battles because they also said that there was going to be an area by default that is there for everyone related to, training your pets and whatnot. So, we'll see. And lastly, the last medium building is the trading post, and there's not too much detail on this one as well. What it says is it allows your followers to do trading missions, presumably to gather different materials for you. And then it also opens up trading routes, and you can get one trading route at level 2 and then a second trading route at level 3. Not really sure what trading routes are. Maybe you can hook up with a friend and be like, hey, you've got an upgraded mine and I've got an upgraded farm. Why don't I trade you, 10 of these herbs for one of these rare ores, and the garrisons automatically trade it back and forth as we generate stuff. That'd be an interesting gameplay mechanic. Who knows? But anywho, that's the trading post, and those are the medium buildings. So there are 4 of those that are identified right now. A 5th if you want to count the barn, even though I think the barn is actually included by default. So you have to make at least one decision there as to which building you're not going to have. So, at max level of your garrison, of course. So moving on to the large buildings, they are the armory, the barracks, mage tower, stables, and the workshop. So, these have a bit more to do with your followers, at least the first 2 do. Armory is all about kitting out your followers, giving them item level upgrades, maybe generating gear from them, I'm not sure. And this also talks about having defense missions, which we're going to get to in a little bit about defending your garrison. So we'll talk that in a second. Hold on. The barracks simply increases the maximum number of followers you can have, and gives you access to some patrol missions. So presumably patrol missions would help you not have to defend, maybe? I don't know. We don't know much about missions yet, so I'm speculating there. But barracks just sounds like, hey, I can have more people. Okay, duh, it's a barracks. People can sleep. Mage Tower is weird, unknown. I don't know. It unlocks different missions that talk about sending your followers out for new useful magic. I don't know what that one could be. We'll see. Maybe I'm not thinking of something right now, and then someone will be like, oh, well, duh, Mage Tower is this. Why didn't you think of that? Sorry, I didn't think of it. You guys should think of it. Next is probably going to be the most used large building, which is the stables. So initially it actually helps your followers get to missions quicker, which presumably means they come back faster. The second level increases player mount speed. Yeah, bam. Everyone's going to want that. Everyone's going to have a stables. Sorry, Blizzard. Everyone's going to want to move faster on their mount. And this is related to Draenor. It's not going to make you move faster in Pandaria or something. But what they've, this combined with the fact that we're going to be on the ground for the whole first tier of raiding, presumably, everyone's going to want this. Everyone's going to want to be able to zoom around on their mounts and stuff. So, happy stables, because you're going to have it. And lastly, the last large building to talk about is the workshop. And there is really nothing to talk about because there is no information about it. It's going to be a place where you can make up new doodads. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm making that up. Workshop is the last large building. So, given the buildings that we just talked about, there are 5 large ones, and you will only have 3 plots. So you're going to have to make some decisions there to which 2 of them are you not going to have. Actually, probably, you're going to have a stable, so it's picking 2 out of 4. Seriously? I mean, who's not going to want better mount speed on the ground? Really? Or ground and air, they said. I don't know. Who's not going to want stables? Seriously? Come on. So, that is the buildings, and, I'm really happy with the whole combination of having storage in the buildings so that you don't have to check it, every hour, so it's not like I gotta be there every minute and every day. And even at this point, with some of the storage upgrades that we're talking about, it's not going to even be a daily thing. So you could make it such that every 5 days you check on your garrison. Presumably, it'd probably be better if you checked on it earlier and you could send your followers out on more missions and micromanage it that way. But at the very least, the resource gathering part of your garrison is not going to suffer if you don't come back every day. That, I like to see that. That's a bonus. Good job, Blizzard. So moving on, let's talk followers. So they talked about a number of different aspects of followers, some of which we already knew or sort of surmised. Followers are going to come from a variety of places, from your inn, from just, you're questing along, you're in this quest hub and you help this, goblin or something defend his little tiny castle through a series of quest chain stuff. And at the end of it, he's like, hey, I like you, I'm going to come follow you. Stuff like that. Or just random events that you're like, oh, this orc guy is getting beat up over here, and he actually is a good tank if you can save him from, being beaten down by this other guy. And, you get him and you help him out, and he comes and follows you, and he's part of your garrison and such. So, sounds like there will be a variety of ways to get followers, which they already said. No new info really there. Followers will have item slots. Again, we knew that. You can gear them out. I'm not sure yet how you gear them out. If it's a matter of like, hey, I just, had a bunch of green crap done, drop for me in a dungeon, and now I can gear out my hunter follower with a cool green level bow. I don't know if it's that way. The armory building may have something more to do with that. It talks about giving an item level upgrade for your followers. Again, we'll see. More details to come, I'm sure. And the missions and such are really like this. If you've ever played Star Wars The Old Republic, it really sounds like that system. So you have a bunch of followers, and they are specialized in different things. So, for example, we got our tank guy, and we got some mages and hunters, and you got some other guys who like going mining and such. Presumably, if you've got like a mission that you want to get done, and it's like, go into this dungeon and, have a chance to farm me epic gear or something. Presumably, you're not going to take 5 mages and party them up and send them out to this dungeon. What it's going to tell you in the interface is, hey, that party that you just put together has like a 2% chance of succeeding. But if you add our little orc buddy that you saved before as that tank, you slap in a priest type healer or whatever into your group, suddenly the interface is telling you, you have like a 92% chance of succeeding in that mission. It's a similar system to the sort of, better chance to succeed, to success for the Star Wars thing, all that kind of jazz. Again, I may be talking ancient history because I played Star Wars like 2 years ago or whenever it came out, and it's not that long ago. Anywho, like a year and a half. But it's that similar system, it sounds like. You specialize the missions and you send the right followers out and give them the best chance to succeed with gear and upgrades and all that other jazz. So missions sound like what they said they would. And in addition, obviously on missions, your followers are sort of gaining experience and leveling up, and maybe they find gear out there in the world and they're all that jazz. So, a progression system for your followers is in place. Cool. So what other items did they have? Besides, there's going to be a pond there for fishing and a battle arena for pet training, the last most interesting piece that we found out about is that you're going to actually have to defend your garrison against attacks. From what? Apparently NPCs will actually try to attack your garrison. And as we talked about earlier, there's, if you have the armory, you can have defense missions. So presumably you can sort of have enough followers set up so that, if you do have an attack, the defense missions sort of take care of it on its own. Or if you get alerted, you're online and your garrison is getting attacked. What they said was you could actually fly down there, or ride down there and actually help in the defense. And they even said that you could group up with real life friends. You could group up with your guildies or whatnot, and they could come help. So be like, hey, my garrison's getting attacked. You really need to defend it because I get a really good chance, off of this guy who's attacking me to get some epic something or other, or whatever, or it's a good gold reward. It's like 1,000 gold or something. I'll pay you each 100 gold to come help me real quick. Just stuff like that. So that's a real interesting dynamic. But it could be scary. It could be annoying. So if that type of defense thing happens every 3 hours, that's going to suck. It's going to be like, hey guys, I know it just happened a little bit ago, but can you guys come down and help me again? And then what exactly is what's the consequence for your failing to defend your garrison? Does it mean your buildings get destroyed and then you have to rebuild them? I would hope it's not as drastic as that. Maybe they get destroyed but then they rebuild over a couple hours and then they're back to fully functional or something. Or maybe it wrecks any upgrades that are in progress. I don't know. That's sort of unknown as to what happens if you fail at defending. But, it'd be an interesting thing for hey, I log on and I see my garrison's getting attacked. Well, I can't help it right now, but the, attack takes 5 hours or something. So after my raid, I can get a couple people to come help me defend it because it's a really good, reward for me defending it or something. Or maybe, the consequences aren't that negative, so it's more of a positive thing. As in, if you fail to defend it, it's just darn, sucks. And there's no negative consequence. It's just, if you defend it, you get something. So, I don't know. What do you guys think about that one? Because defenses could get annoying. Could get annoying really quickly. So, there you go. There's a lot more information on garrisons that has been spouted from my mouth, and hopefully you are further educated. I'm sure there's lots more to learn. I'm sure I've missed some things along the way, but there's an update on Garrisons. I'd like to give you a couple more updates on some minor items, and then an update on my Insanity achievement stuff, and then we'll close this out. So, one interesting tweet that maybe some people have missed is that one of the devs was asked about combat logs and whether they could log stuff like the Nourishing encounter better. So if you don't know, combat logs only log what's happening around the player who is actually logging it. And if you get out of range of that player, or you go into like a different phase or dimension from that player, it doesn't log what you're doing. So biggest example in this current tier is on the Nourishing encounter. If you're logging the fight and you're sitting out there beating on the boss, and then, Mr. Hunter goes off and does his DPS test, your logging does not know what that hunter is doing in his little DPS test where he's killing all the ads and stuff. It just logs him as doing nothing for, a minute or whatever it is. So that's kind of a downside to looking at World of logs and Warcraft logs, because they really don't have the full picture. They don't ever have the full picture except for the person who is actually logging. So that can lead to people sort of misinterpreting them very, very easily. So what the dev basically said was, yeah, we're looking into that and hope to have something in there, because it's not really a big technological hurdle. It's just something we hadn't done yet, or something along those lines. So that's positive. I would really like to see that, because I'd really like to know that logs are very reliable and have the whole picture. Because with that, then you can be really serious about how you analyze the logs and whatnot. So, cool stuff. Next up, there was confirmation of sort of what everyone was thinking was going to be the composition for raids in Mythic. So you got 20 people, how many tanks, how many healers, how many DPS. So in general, what they said was 2 to 3 tanks, mostly 2. Okay, cool. 4 to 6 healers, and mostly 5 is what you're going to be using. So, okay, cool. And then that leaves you with, leftover 13-ish DPS or something like that. So normally 2 tanks, normally 5 healers, normally 13 DPS. Happy Skippy. I know it's sort of a minor point and people are like, why is he highlighting this? But it really will help people build their roster and be like, okay, they've said we're going to sometimes need 3 tanks. So let's, make sure we got our 2 main tanks already in our 25-man group or my 10-man group that I'm rebuilding up to 20-man. Let's make sure we get that third person who we can somewhat gear out as tank, because we're going to need them for these encounters. That happens already in 25-man for the most part. You've got a plate DPS or like a monk or something who's gearing up, or a druid. Feral druid also gearing for bear tank. Happens all the time. But if you're trying to build the roster up from 10 to 20, you kind of want to take that into account when you're recruiting. Likewise, we really wanted to know the number of healers so that we didn't have, all these encounters only require like 3 healers. Well, what am I going to do with the 6 healers that I'm normally taking to 25-man at this point, or 5, or whatever? So, and again, these are going to be the typical numbers, or how they tune the fights. Most guilds that are on the bleeding edge are going to try to do things with 1 less healer, or, maybe 1 more healer because it's a healing intensive fight, or related to healing mechanics. Whatever, they're going to, you're going to see people 3 healing stuff and going, oh, well, Paragon did that. We got a 3 heal this encounter. What they're saying is we're tuning it for this. So just gives you a starting point. Start here. Good stuff. And lastly, before my Insanity update, there is the PAX East Con. And the bit of info we got out of that was that people were getting a little handout card that actually had a beta invite for Warlords of Draenor. It's not something that they can apparently access like right now. They can't go home and be like, yeah, here's my beta. No, it's not active yet, but it's sort of a, hey, you came to PAX and you're now guaranteed to eventually be in the beta. Not sure if that means the people who were there are going to be like the first into the beta, or sometime down the road, or whatever. I would kind of hope that like the press sites like Wowhead and MMO Champion, and sort of the typical WoW Insider, those types of sites, and me, please, are the first to get beta and first to get in there and start reporting on it all before, like, just someone who showed up at PAX East and was like, oh, hey, cool, I'll take that, can be in the beta. I mean, certainly showing up at a I guess I shouldn't diminish that a bit. Going out to a conference and showing up at Blizzard and showing interest in their product, I guess that's sort of a good qualification for someone who is actually interested in playing the beta. But what I can see now is people selling those on eBay. I'm just like waiting for those things to show up. I'm sure they're already there. I'm sure they're there. But whatever. I just hope I get access. So, yeah. Anyone got one? No. Anywho, that's it for my normal updates and normal content. So, quick update on my Insanity achievement. I am done with everything but Dark Moon. And Dark Moon was this week, and I spent some time in Dark Moon. I was fairly inefficient at first about it and forgot about some mechanics. For example, you can ride the carousel in Dark Moon, and it gives you a 10% bonus to your reputation gains. I forgot about this for like the first 10 quests that I turned in, so I probably lost, 200 some rep because I was getting 275 instead of 300 for each quest I was turning in. Whoops. I won't do that next time. Likewise, I forgot that I needed to level some battle pets because there's a battle pet quest daily there. So I missed out on the whole week, missed out on 2100 rep because I didn't do any battle pets. So I'll probably spend some time this month in between Dark Moon fairs leveling up some pets and going into that system. I like the battle pet system. I just never sort of had the time to tinker around with it and mess with it. I have a couple level like 10 pets or something like that, just some ones I was goofing around with. But I probably need to have some level 25 battle pets ready, and the correct ones. It sounds like I need, this specific combo to, get that daily done every day. Because, whoops, I missed out on some rep. So I ended up at 8,000 some rep out of 12,000 into Honored. So I've got, what's that, 20... so I got like 25,000 rep to go. I'm going to calculate that out here in a little while and make sure that I can reach it in the next month. I don't think I can by default. So I may need to buy some Dark Moon card decks over the next few weeks so that I can have those for rep turn in. If not, if it's not even possible with that, then I guess I'm sort of stuck with waiting until the next Dark Moon Fair after that to get the achievement. But I'm well on my way. Ravenholt junk boxes are all done. Steam Weedle's all done, and I did the blood sale stuff. So I'm all good to go. Just get me some Dark Moon, and we'll get this insane stuff done. So anywho, that's it for this week's Overrated. It's episode number 20. Yeah. Thanks, guys, for watching all this time, and please keep subscribing and keep spreading the word. Keep telling people, hey, this is an interesting guy who talks for 20-30 minutes about some highlights of Warlords, and he seems interesting and has cats, even though I don't have a cat right now. There's one over there. Maybe I'll grab it. But you can be like, hey guys, this guy is interesting. He has cat pictures. He does stuff with cats, and he talks about Warlords, and yeah, whatever. Spread the word. Appreciate it. I love it. I just want to reach out to more people and keep interacting with people. Had some great chat room stuff going on in my streams in the last few times. So keep heading to that. twitch.tv/GatorRaid. Yay. Awesome. Thanks everyone for watching. Please comment, like, and or subscribe to the video. And have a good one.